Hello and welcome to Guy Logic. My name is Temko and today we are taking a look at a game called Zheros. Well, what is Zheros, you might ask? Well, that's a good question. Zheros is a 3D beat 'em up, mostly played in a side-scrolling fashion that does exactly what it tries out to do, which is smash tons of enemies in nicely animated and choreographed levels. The game originally came out on Xbox One a month ago, and the developers are slowly porting it over to PC as well as PlayStation 4 at an undisclosed date. But PC is here right now, coming out on February the 15th, and we are going to take a look whether or not the game is any good. As always, we're going to start in the options menu. If you do not want to hear me talk about options and the performance of the PC port compared to its original inception on the Xbox One, then I suggest you press the annotation that has appeared somewhere on screen and skip right ahead to the gameplay section. If you do want to hear me talk about options, well, strap in. We're going to get to it. First things first, the game's options menus are fully mouse driven, so that's a really good thing. But the menu buttons are pretty finicky. You can click anywhere around the big button, for example the select button, and it won't do anything. You have to click on the actual text for select, which just means it's a little bit of lazy programming because they added a link text to this instead of animating the button to be an actual trigger. Also, I'd like to mention that all these A and B and X and Y icons you know from the Xbox One or Xbox 360 are present in all the game's aspects, and they are not replaced by actual keyboard key bindings if you so desire to put them in. So this means that all the in-game tooltips, as well as all the cutscene skipping and all the like, all use Xbox One controller icons, which is definitely a bit of a shame compared to the PC counterparts. Now, the game is definitely playable, and probably better playable than it is on keyboard and mouse with a controller. So if you want the best experience with this game, I do suggest using a controller. But Guy Logic refused to use a controller because my hands are incapable of doing that due to RSI, or repetitive strain injury. So I use a mouse and keyboard. Is it good? Well, the controls are pretty finicky, and let me go into the controls first and explain to you what exactly is going on here. First things first, controls, controller that is not rebindable, and keyboard that are rebindable in a limited fashion. So you can rebind most of these keys, but you can only rebind them to most of the keyboard keys. So I couldn't rebind my keys to my mouse button, so if I wanted my light attack, heavy attack to be on my left mouse button, I couldn't. It had to be on one of the keys. Right now they are set up to be on Z, X, and C for light, heavy, and dodge, the shift button for sprint, and then the A and S buttons for your block and weapon ability, and I'll explain how all of those work in a bit. So you have your left hand on the left side of the keyboard using those 5 buttons, which is a really unconventional setup, and your right hand on the arrow keys on your keyboard. You do not use your mouse in this game at all outside of the menu. I'm not sure I like that. I would have preferred the mouse control being enabled in the game, at least for movement or actions, but that is not the case. At least these are rebindable. Audio-wise, the game has music volume and SFX volume, no master volume, which is always a shame, but these two more or less cover it. There is no dialogue in the game that I have seen or heard, but nonetheless it is quite interesting and well animated. If you head over to the video options, it has quite a few options you'd expect from a PC game. Not all of them though, as you might hope from a 3D rendered game. VSync on or off, I have turned on VSync. Turning off VSync jumps up the FPS to a very nice 300. In game, right now I'm in a stable 60 FPS with no hitching or drops at all, outside of some weird drops during loading menus. Shadow quality goes all the way up to high and is pretty decent. Full screen on or off, no full screen window, which is a shame. Anti-aliasing doesn't tell you what anti-aliasing this is, but from what I've gathered, it is FXAA, because it does a little bit blurry around the edges. Depth of field, pretty decent, it is really good. And texture size is high. Texture sizes are pretty decent, they look pretty well, but these are still limited to the performance of the Xbox. They are not upscaled to 4K or anything ridiculous like that for the PC resolution. And then you have resolution, which I always don't like when it's a side-scrolling toggle, but we can live with that, it is pretty nice. And then you have screen size, which is definitely something I never expected to see in a PC game. What this does is it lowers the screen size down. Now this is something TVs often used to have, where if the resolution your TV thought it was couldn't display the game properly in all its glory, you could downscale the game's render to a smaller area of the TV to get the best possible result. I used to have to do this on my Nintendo 64 back when I was a kid and trying to play Zelda. I had to reschedule all of that and recalibrate all of that. I just never expected to have to do that on a PC game. Thankfully, you don't have to. You put this to 0 and it works just fine. Oh, well, we'll confirm the changes then. Doesn't matter. These are all the options you have, as well as a little tutorial on how to play. Now, this is my main criticism, obviously, of this tutorial. It uses not the keyboard bindings you are used to. It uses the Xbox One controller bindings in icons as well. And this explains light attacks, heavy attacks, rolling, how to use your weapon, how to run, and how to revive. Good mentioning though, I'll get into that in a little bit. There is a co-op mode, but it's local only. Blocking, as well as charging attacks. Now this doesn't introduce how to deflect, which is also a feature of the game. I'll explain all of that in a little bit. What I want to get into is local co-op. Local co-op is available, which is pretty fine on a couch co-op on a Xbox, but you're on a PC. Local co-op on a PC is notoriously unpopular. Strange and Dangerous Spacetime had the same issue and it sold very badly as a result because it didn't have online co-op. I really hope the developers add online co-op in the game because that would definitely be an amazing thing to have. The game is fun in and of its own, but having 2 players play the game sounds like a dream come true. Now let's go into gameplay. I have mostly beaten the first world and there's a second world after that. And there's about 10 levels in this one and about 10 levels in the other one. Overall, I have played the game for about 15 hours and I am very satisfied with the gameplay. And again, I'm not as satisfied with the PC port. Now, I have here a little bit of gameplay and I'll talk during the gameplay to explain things to you. This is pre-recorded gameplay because this game is pretty hard on me to play and talk at the same time. I'm playing on normal difficulty. There is easy, normal, and hard difficulty. So if you think, oh, this is going very, very easy for this man, you can always crank up the difficulty a little bit higher for yourself. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's go ahead and get into some gameplay and I'll tell you all about the game itself. When you load into a level, you first select one of 2 characters. The bulkier male is slower and does more damage per hit, and the lighter and more agile female can dodge attacks more easily, but does take a few more hits to take down enemies. Overall, these 2 play more or less the same once you master the variety of combos available to you. And there's quite a few combos available, so that is not a problem. But after that, it really doesn't matter which one you pick outside of your own preference. Now, the game has a leveling system for your characters, and you can level in 3 different ways, which is your attack ability, your defensive ability, and your sidearm ability, which is your gun you have available. I've mostly leveled myself up in attack ability, and each level unlocks more movement combos and more attacks to me. Also, obviously, defense unlocks better defense and reflective abilities and dodges and the like. And your sidearm unlocks a couple of other things as well. I have to say that the combos are pretty intuitive. You combine them using light and heavy attacks, coupled with your jump and dodge ability. And they're animated quite well, and the variety is pretty available. I have about 20-25 combos available to me at this point, and all of them feel unique. All the attacks feel smooth. A heavy attack actually feels heavy. Your light attacks feel light, and chaining them and combining them actually feels interesting. I've never gotten bored of watching an animation play out because they're smart, they're fast, and they're efficient. They don't overact, they don't lock your camera in place or anything stupid like that. The game feels like an actual brawler. So the brawling is really, really good. What I will give the game though is that the enemy variety is pretty limited, at least initially. They do fix that later down in the later couple of levels with more enemies that behave very different. But this is level 3 you're seeing here on screen, and up to this point I've only been fighting these screen men. One thing I do not like so much about this game's movement is that jumping and dashing is pretty fiddly. I'm not sure why that is, but that is the biggest drawback I have of the movement system. All combat, all attacks, and all animations feel really tight and control really well, except for the jumping and dashing, which is a bit annoying as there are a couple of pseudo-platforming sections in the levels where you have to jump from ledge to ledge and from platform to platform. These are small and few in between, but they are frustrating when you die and have to end up redoing half a level from the last checkpoint. Now, how do you level your character up, you might ask? Well, you do that by killing enemies and getting points. These points are later tallied up at the end of the level, And if you have enough points, you will get a leveling point, an RP point. And you can use these to level up in a variety of ways. Subsequent levels cost more points, so the first level costs 1 point, the second level costs 2 points, etc, etc. During the level you can pick up health packs. These will replenish your health, and there's a couple of achievements. Let's say while you did it without using a health pack, here have an extra couple of bonus points. As for the combat and the like, it feels smooth, the levels flow really well. I have never gotten to a point where I felt bored about the level, or when I felt the level was stretching itself too far. The sole exception is a couple of areas where you have to go through an elevator, which is just animated and sliding up to a different section of the level. That just had me waiting there and there. Now, if you died just after that level, as I've done a couple of times, you would have to redo that entire platforming section again, which was frustrating because that's not the part I signed up for this game. So I'm not sure if the developers can add like a checkpoint right after, so you don't at least have to do platforming again and again. But it's not a major issue because the combat animations are really tight. Now, sound design wise, it feels pretty amazing. Obviously, sound is very important in a beat 'em up or a brawler, and they have perfected that to a T. All attacks, all impacts, all hits have accompanying sounds, screen effects, and animations that really sell it. It feels heavy, it feels light, and the like, and it is really good. The music in the game isn't impressive, but it does do the job. As you can see, there is a couple of areas where you can go to the side. I didn't here, and these side objectives sometimes have optional things, including a hidden star on every level where you get an achievement for if you find it. Obviously, this will impact your time when you're trying to complete the level, so you'll probably redo the level several times to get the various RP points, the hidden objectives, and also just flat out score attacks. As I said previously, the game has a co-op mode, and that co-op mode is pretty interesting, but it is very only local. You can't play it with friends over Steam or anything like that. It's a local co-op on your computer. And on an Xbox, that works fine because you're on a couch, you grab 2 controllers, you plug them in, and that's that. On a PC, it really doesn't work that way. So as such, I'm really sad it didn't implement an actual online co-op, but I guess that was a little bit too much to expect, as the PC port, as I've said before, is not exactly up to par, even though the gameplay is really solid. So I wish they would have spent a little bit more time on just the technical aspects to get the best possible effect out of it on PC. One thing I haven't touched on is the story and its progression. The story is bare bones. At the very best of times, it is not original. There's an evil doctor. He kidnaps people and turns them into his minions. Go find and kill all of them. Yeah, that's the basis of it. The game really runs on its mechanics in brawling style. The game's longevity, if such a thing can be called, will be from score attacks as well as time trials. Sadly, I have not found online scoreboards or leaderboards of any kind being implemented. So I'm not sure how the developer plans on bringing this feature to the forefront instead of it being on your computer only. While that is fun, I don't see myself playing more than 10-15 hours of this game to get the enjoyment out of it when I cannot compete with other people. But maybe that's just me, and your mileage may vary. But that does bring us back straight around to the primary criticism I have for this title, is that the PC port is plain and simple lazy. It is lacking online functionality, such as online co-op or online leaderboards, and it is lacking any integration with Steam or other systems. As such, it's mostly an Xbox game that you can now suddenly play on a PC. Which is a shame because combat is nice, the animations are smooth. So if you are interested in Zheros, it is coming out on February 15th for the PC platform, and I do recommend using a controller on it and not a mouse and keyboard, because that is definitely the game's weakest side. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, press that like button below. If you didn't like this video, well, the dislike button exists for a reason, and leave a comment. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like, and what you think we should do better. And if you want to see more content like this on the channel, just press that subscribe button and we will deliver. Until next time, right here on Guy Logic.